My name is Billy Hawk. I am a photographer from the Twin Cities. I always have loved art growing up, and when I was younger and kind of all throughout high school, I used to love drawing. Later in my high school career, I found out that I have ADHD. As far as just like life with ADHD, for those of you who don't know, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Long story short, I have really hard times like just concentrating on things, and that felt very like affirming as to why, certain things were hard for me. And with drawing, I loved, being able to make something and look at the result, but the process of doing it, it was so hard for me to just sit down and like stare at a picture for hours and try and touch it up and all this stuff. My sister had a camera that she let me borrow for a little bit, and once I started taking photos, I'm like, wow, you can make really pretty things really quick with this. And I just loved that. I absolutely loved that. And so she let me use her camera for a little while, and I was starting to get more and more into it, and eventually one of my friends, his name is Jordan, he rebuilt this little film camera and gave it to me. So this was my first camera that was my very own. It still is like my favorite film camera. He taught me kind of just how to use, the aperture, setting up your camera for which film you're using, like the ISO, and how shutter speeds, and how all those little variables of the equation work together. And from there, I just decided like, okay, I want to keep going with this. After high school, I was going to Century College to do my generals and try and get like better grades and maybe go to a different school. I had a nighttime photography class there, and we got out of class right around like 10:30, sometimes 11. And there was one night I went out with a classmate and we went to go explore abandoned buildings and take photos in them. We got back to my car at probably 3 a.m. and I was driving home and I fell asleep at the wheel, and thank goodness I didn't hurt anyone, thank goodness I'm alive, but I hit a sign and it like cut through my window right here and like sprayed me with glass. I looked in the mirror and I was all bloody, and luckily the blood was just from glass spraying me and not this sign cutting through my window at neck height. So that happened, and this is right around the end of the semester at college. And I remembered like telling my teachers what had happened, and about a week later I was going in to like retake all of my semester finals, and I was driving my mom's car and it just shut off on the highway and just never turned back on, and I missed my retakes of my semester finals. I took that as like a little bit of a sign from the universe, and I'm super grateful that that happened, honestly, because that was kind of a big turning point where it's like, all right, I'm not going to college. I need to really buckle down and focus on photography. And sometimes life just throws that stuff at you, and it seems like it's a horrible thing that happened, and sometimes it is, but a lot of the time it's just to get you to the next spot, which is usually a lot better. Once I got out of high school, I got like my first like good tax return, and I'm like, I'm buying a plane ticket. I messaged like this family friend who does photography in LA, and he's like, yeah, come hang out in LA. He just kind of gave me a lot of really good like information on photography and just really great advice for life in general, which I appreciate him a ton. His name is James. James, I love you. One thing that he taught me was like, photography is a beautiful art form, but if you do want to turn it into a career, generally it's going to be a lot easier if you're taking photographs of people. Like selling a print of a beautiful landscape is something that you can do, but it's hard to sustain yourself doing that. Came back from LA and took that advice to heart, and I just, reached out to my friend Jay, who's like one of my prettiest friends, and I'm like, come on, let's go take some photos. So like every weekend we would just go out and take portraits and stuff, and eventually, after like starting to post them on Instagram more and more, I felt comfortable like reaching out to, you know, people I admire on Instagram. I was in Wisconsin still, but I would drive out to Minneapolis every weekend and meet up with all these different people and just take photos of them. And it kind of was like a snowball effect from there, where at first it was me reaching out to all of these people, and eventually I started having people reach out to me, which felt very affirming. I didn't really know where I was going with it when I started, but it's just kind of naturally, you know, the river of life has taken me where it needs to get me, and it's been really wonderful.